Hey, this is C&D channel. I'm Chris, and this is MMA for you. I'm going to be doing my UFC on FX8 post-fight analysis. Overall, this was I liked the card a lot, actually. There's a good amount of like TKOs and KOs, and some really nice submission victories on the card as well. Some of the fights weren't great, but most fights, even the ones that went to decision, were fun fights. I mean, there wasn't any, there was some questionable judging, like Dos Anjos versus Dunham, and I'll get to that, and some reffing stuff, with like Hawker and Diaz grabbing defense a bunch of times, so just stuff like that. Otherwise, I mean, we got a fight, knockout of the night, or knockout of the year contender with Vitor Belfort's win over Rockhold. So yeah, and as far as my picks go, I got every pick right except for Vitor Belfort beating Luke Rockhold. As far as bonuses go, knockout of the night went to Vitor Belfort, Jacare got submission of the night, and Lucas Martins versus Jeremy Larson got fight of the night. Okay, let's get right to it. Vitor Belfort beat Luke Rockhold with a spinning heel kick and follow-up strikes in the first round. I guess the best way, honestly, to start this off with, I just gotta talk about the TRT thing, because a lot of people will say like, wow, that TRT is really really helping them win, or there's always this idea of this thing where Vitor's win is always a bit discredited with the TRT. Now, obviously, taking TRT isn't making him be able to suddenly use spinning heel kicks. That's not what it does. Obviously, helps with recovery time, helps him train more and train harder, even though his age and the damage he took in his career would indicate that he wouldn't be able to train this hard without the TRT, among other things. But the arguments that I hear too are it's not illegal, so it's cool. The spinning, TRT doesn't make people get spinning heel kicks. Look at someone like a Frank Mir who took TRT. It's not like he was winning because of it. So it's obvious that Vitor Belfort is really on the forefront of this whole TRT thing, considering his career resurgence and the fact that he is pretty much next in line for the title, or should be. And obviously there are guys that say look, yeah, it's legal, but honestly it's a loophole, and it's it's more or less just steroids. So it kind of sucks that his win does get a bit discredited, because it's a good win over a really good opponent in Luke Rockhold. One of the biggest problems with Luke Rockhold, he fights with his hands down. It's a very karate thing that he does, and it's cost him a lot, and it cost him big time. This was a tough loss for Rockhold, obviously. Even in the post-fight interview, he's like, dude, I was hit with a spinning heel kick. I mean, what am I supposed to say? It's not like he trained for it. It's obvious he didn't train for it or anything like that. But I still think he should get some top guys, regardless. Maybe someone coming off a loss. You could give him someone come off a win, the winner of Bosch versus Munoz. Or you can give him Alan Belcher. Who else? maybe give him Bisping. I don't know about that because Bisping's coming off. Excuse me. It's not the worst thing to give him. But he should definitely fight more like top 10 guys. He is a top 10 fighter after all. With Vitor though, it's very odd because like he seems really hesitant to fight Anderson Silva when the question comes up. It's more of just like I'll give them whoever they want me to, and whatnot. I'd like to see the fight on merit. You know, I mean, he's on what he's on a really good win streak, 2 head kick knockouts. You know, over top competition. He's still looking like he's 25. Or what? 19 or whatever. I don't think the fight would go. I mean, I'd favor Anderson to beat Vitor, but I think it would definitely look a lot different nonetheless. But yeah, if I were to say who should Vitor fight, yeah, I think he should get a title shot. To be perfectly honest, he's definitely on the short list. Short list there, especially with his resume, his quality of wins, and how he's beating top guys. One other thing that's really interesting is like Vitor is a really good fighter, and it actually goes to show how good a guy like a Jones or an Anderson Silva is when they're beating him. Jones beat him pretty handily, and Anderson beat him in the first round. It's like, man, you're beating this guy who's like knocking out like Luke Rockhold. Who's never, like never been, never lost in like 5 years, and one of the few elite guys that beat Michael Bisping. It's those guys must be like Vitor seems to only lose to the very, very best guy, the champion, and that's about it. But yeah, great win, definitely knockout of the year material there. Okay, next fight after that, Ronaldo Jacare Souza beat Chris Camozzi by arm triangle choke. If you haven't already, go on like Bloody Elbow and look at the judo chops for this. I mean, it's just beautiful. Starting from the takedown, the guard passing, the omoplata sweep. Heck, Jacare got him with like an overhand right before any of the ground battle happened. His side mount work, his mount, and just how, dude, that he put, Jacare put Camozzi to sleep so fast, like he couldn't tap. People were counting it in slow-mo. It was like 4 seconds exactly for him to fall asleep. I mean, this guy's a top 10 fighter, and on the Fuel TV post show, I mean, Chael Sonnen and I think Cormier was saying, like he's number 8. Don't even give him number 7, 6. Get him top 5 guys. Chael was saying get him like Okami. I think Okami's fine actually. I think stylistically, people are saying, oh, he can grind him out. Look what he did to Lombard. But yeah, stylistically, Jacare is good in the clinch. Judo black belt. One of the top Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu practitioners in the world. And at this point, probably has more power in the stand-up than Okami. Michael Bisping would be very interesting as well. So definitely, in my opinion, Bisping would be a tough stylistic matchup for Jacare because Bisping's hard to take down, and there's a chance that Bisping could outwork him on the feet. So that's the thing with that one. So I think Bisping's a tougher challenge than Okami should they go that route. For all I know, they're gonna give him the winner like Bosch Munoz or like give him Costa Philippou or something like that. But just a great win for Jacare. I mean, the guy's got it all too. He's got the skill. He's a crazy look. He has the alligator thing going on. And he has a lot of charisma too. Even though he's speaking Portuguese, you can tell that like he's just really charismatic. Definitely someone to get someone to be a fan of pretty easily. With Camozzi, I mean, he's just out of his depth here. brave of him to take the fight on short notice, but like, you know, quite honestly, they just are in different leagues. I mean, it looks like Jacare is better than him, wrestling, jiu-jitsu, you know, grappling, and even striking. And that ends Kamozi's win streak. So, you know, I think he should just fight more lower to mid-tier guys. I don't know. With Kamozi, he looks like he'll be a perpetual mid-tier middleweight, to be perfectly honest with you. Okay, next fight after that, Rafael dos Anjos beat Evan Dunham by unanimous decision. Definitely controversial. You know, when the fight ended, I actually did, you know, I don't think it's a robbery because, you know, I recognize that the fight was really close. You know, when after the fight happened, I kind of edged it to Dunham, but, you know, like, the first round, I thought dos Anjos was beating him on the stand-up. And, yeah, he was taken down, but nothing much was done on the ground from Dunham on top. I think both these guys had some pretty high output. I think dos Anjos seemed to be hitting, like, the harder and cleaner shots on Dunham. Arguably, that's not to say Dunham didn't hit him at all. I mean, obviously Dunham hit dos Anjos a lot too. Surprised there's a unanimous decision. You know, because the scorecards don't indicate how close the fight was. It was a very close fight. I mean, there's arguments for 10-10 rounds here. Regardless, though, I mean, it's a really good win for dos Anjos. He's still, both these guys are still really good lightweights, both very well-rounded, and to generally be fighting those, like, fringe top 10 to 15 guys for, like, Dunham. Dos Anjos, I think, should probably fight more top 10 at this point. You're talking, like, the winner of, like, Cerrone versus KJ Noons, supposing Cerrone wins. Maybe dos Anjos versus Pat Healy. Really cool. Go Josh Thompson, dos Anjos. I mean, those aren't bad fights either, but you should definitely get people higher up the ladder. Okay, next fight after that, Rafael Natal beat João Zeferino by unanimous decision. Man, Natal, you know, what can you say about this guy? He's just, this fight IQ's really bad. I gotta say. Usually the Andrew Craig fight. This fight, you know, Zeferino looked like he was so gassed. I mean, it looks like he had a hard time standing at times. And Natal did nothing with it. You know what I mean? It's like, you know. He's a good fighter. His stand-up's solid, and his ground game's good too, but he's just, he can't put it all together or something sometimes. I mean, he'll beat these, like, he beats a lot of guys that are coming into the UFC. He'll beat a couple mid-tier guys. He'll also lose to a couple mid-tier guys. That's the thing. So, you know, as far as his prospects in the division, I mean, Natal's a perpetual mid-tier. You know, Zeferino, you know, he took the fight on short notice. You know, he should get another fight just in the lower to mid-tier of his division. And a really nice 50-50 guard battle that Mike Chiesa totally hated on. But otherwise, you know, Natal won, but it wasn't a great performance for him by any stretch of the imagination. He should just fight more like lower to mid-tier guys. I think he's on a win streak too, so, you know, give him a step up, give him a CB Dalloway. Or someone coming from, like, Ultimate Fighter Brazil, like Thiago Badal, or, like, you know, Cesar Mutante, or something like that. You know, just maybe someone higher up there, I guess. Okay, on to the prelims. Nick Lentz beat Hakon Diaz by unanimous decision. You know, Lentz, grinder. What can you say? You know, he doesn't have the best stand-up. He's never had it. But, you know, he's on you like glue. He's going to take you down. He's going to grind on you, you know. And he did that on a guy like Hakon Diaz, who actually has in the past has employed that same type of game. It's interesting because, you know, talking to some people, it's like, nah, there's no way he's going to be able to utilize that game on Hakon Diaz, a Nova União guy, strong takedown defense and whatnot, BJJ black belt. And that's what he did for 2 rounds. The third round, you know, Hakon Diaz, whatever Hakon Diaz was doing in the third round, he should have done in either the first or the second, though, man. You know, outstriking them on the feet, you know, just putting pressure on him instead of letting Lentz put pressure on Diaz, you know. But with the, you know, with this said, you know, a solid win here again. Lentz should definitely get some top 10 guys now, you know. The winner of Frankie Edgar versus Charles Oliveira, the winner of Ricardo Lamas versus Korean Zombie, or the winner of Swanson versus Seaver, they all work. If you want to give Nick Lentz someone like Chad Mendes, it wouldn't be the worst fight in the world either. With Hakon Diaz, it's more middle to lower tier of the division. He should be, you know, he's still relatively young. I think he's only like 29, trains at a good camp, well-rounded enough, you know. He kind of looks like, he fights like Aldo, you know, just his stance is very much like Aldo. I mean, he's not as good in the stand-up or anything, but you can definitely see similarities with this, like, Nova União guys. Next round is that Francisco Masaranduba Trinaldo beat Mike Rio by arm triangle choke. Man, you know, Ronaldo's a big dude, and that arm triangle was from half guard. You know what I mean? He got a pretty tough break fighting a guy like Gleison Tebow, but he's a good fighter, you know? Good kickboxing, good ground game, super strong dude, huge for the weight class, you know? This is a good, solid fighter. He's a little too old to call a prospect, I guess, but, you know, he's definitely good enough to stay in the UFC, you know? I think he should get more mid-tier guys. I would like to see him get, like, the winner of Sam Stout versus Isaac Valley Flag or something like that. Mike Rio, you know, he should just get more lower to mid-tier of the division. And he's still pretty new in his overall MMA game. But, yeah, that was a good one from Trinaldo, you know? He's just, you know, he's just a big dude, good kickboxer, and strong grappler as well. You know, you can't ask for much more. Okay, next fight is that Gleison Tebow beat John Cholish by guillotine choke in the second round. John Cholish retired after this fight. You know, he's saying that, like, MMA was always a hobby for him. I mean, the guy works in Wall Street. He's an Ivy Leaguer. He's definitely making more money in Wall Street than doing this, you know. It's not to say he won't ever come back, but as of right now, he's retired. And quite honestly, you know, this was a bad fight for him. I mean, seriously, just a stylistic matchup. It's just really bad. Tebow's just a better wrestler, better stand-up, bigger, better Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, I mean. You know, what can you say? You know, I mean, Tebow beat... The thing with Tebow, though, I mean, he'll beat your Francisco Trinaldos, your John Cholishes. Heck, he even beat Rafael Dos Anjos. And then he'll lose. You know? He'll lose to Jim Miller, you know? Or someone like that. You know, I think he lost to Melvin Gillard, too, when Melvin was, like, on his really good win streak, you know? He can't seem to beat top 10, but he can beat everyone else. Yeah, that's the story of Gleison Tebow. And which is funny because, like, he's a good fighter, tough to finish, huge for the weight class, striking's been greatly improving, and his wrestling's really good, and his Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu's really good. So, but the thing is, for some reason, it's like not good enough to beat top 10, which is very odd. But at the same time, he should be fighting top 10 because he beats all of the mid-tier guys. Okay, next fight after that, Paul Thiago saved his job as he beat Michal Prazeres by unanimous decision. This was actually a fun fight. You know, there was a lot of scrambles going on. Thiago would use his judo a lot of times in this fight, but Prazeres was always in it. You know, he was game. I think Prazeres should move down to 155. He's just going to be a little pit bull, you know. I don't think he's much of a and he's a little too old to be a prospect. But he's a guy that's still going to be a tough fight for anyone that fights him, you know. He has a quick leg kicks, like I said, like the announcers are saying. His ground game's really strong, you know. Paul Tiago just a little too experienced. Handled the clinch well. Would reverse positions a lot. There's some really neat little, little things in the fight I liked. Paul Tiago, though, he's just gonna be a mid to lower tier guy of the division. The guy we saw beating Kozchuk and Swick isn't really there anymore. I mean, he's a tough guy. Has a full-time job at Bope. And I'm sure that probably interferes with his training because, he's a good fighter. He's not a great fighter. I like the guy though. He has good fights. For the most part, he has good fights and whatnot. Tough as nails type of guy. The next round after that, Yuri Alcantara beat Iliard Santos by TKO in the first round. Dude, give Alcantara a top 10 guy. This guy's just skill-wise. This guy is just too good. I was seeing, I always go back to this, but dude, this guy knocked out Ricardo Lamas in the first round at lightweight. He was a good featherweight. He is a beastly bantamweight. He's big for the weight class. Super well-rounded guy. I mean, his Muay Thai is solid. His timing is really good. His composure is really good. And his ground game is really strong as well. Iliard Santos cut down to 125. I think he usually fights at 125. And just fight the guys there. But Alcantara, give him some top 10 guys. Give him a TJ Dillashaw, Rafael Assunção, Easton Pickett. Give him those really good guys, because I'm really high on the guy, but a lot of people too can tell this guy has top 10 level skills. Let's see him fight some top 10 guys, because like I said, he's just a really good fighter. Next fight after that, Fabio Maldonado beat Roger Hollett by unanimous decision. Wouldn't be surprised if Hollett's cut after this. He's not really a UFC caliber guy. Maldonado, man, he played his game. Got a guy against his fence, started dirty boxing, short uppercuts, body punches. I mean, Hollett just looks like he wanted to survive by the end of the third round. There was a couple 29-27 scorecards. I'd say round 3 was probably 10-8 because Hollett, Maldonado was saying, he no fight, you know what I mean? And it was the truth, too. I mean, this guy just didn't seem to want to fight after the third round, man. I always like Fabio Maldonado, he's always good, if you can give him the right guys, he'll always have fun fights. I think he got permanent brain damage after that Glover Teixeira beatdown though, but otherwise, it's getting more lower to mid tier of the division. Okay, and on the Facebook prelims, John Lineker beat Azamat Gashmov by TKO in the second round. Lineker was definitely more patient. He's definitely a future title contender. His body strikes are just awesome. This guy looks like a future title contender. I want him to fight some top 10 flyweights. Lineker versus Dodson would be particularly cool. I don't know if Gashimov would be is gonna get cut or not from the UFC after this. He's on a 2-fight losing streak. Didn't look particularly great in this fight. Big for the weight class, but that's about it. Otherwise, yeah, with Lineker, I'm curious to see who they give him next. Next fight, that Hussier Formiga beat Chris Carriazo by unanimous decision. Formiga won the fight, or he won in the scorecards, but Carriazo won the fight pretty much. I mean, as far as damage goes, especially in the third round, Carriazo, positional control, Formiga. This fight really showed the refs were a bit too stand-up happy. Otherwise, I hope they keep Carriazo because he's on a 2-fight losing streak, but he's a really solid fighter. And Formiga, he lost to Dodson, but I'd like to see him fight more of the top of the flyweight division. And finally, Lucas Martins beat Jeremy Larson by KO in the 3rd round. He was actually, it looks like he was behind in the scorecards, but you know, he managed to get that KO. This was a fun fight, and fight tonight is a bit sloppy. I mean, you're gonna have to give both these guys, if they send the UFC, more lower tier guys, because they're not, from a technical level, they're not that great, but they can have fun fights. So yeah. So yeah, that's pretty much it for my post-fight analysis for UFC on FX8. If you have any comments, just leave them below. And that's it for MMA for you. Thank you guys very much.